Story 1, The Graveyard Shift Special. Every small town has that one place where everyone ends up at 2 a.m. For us, it was Millie's Diner, a chrome-sided relic on Route 9 with cracked red vinyl booths and a jukebox that only played songs from 1957. Our crew of night owls, me, Danny, and Jess, we'd meet there after our shifts, ordering bottomless coffee and sharing fries until sunrise. The waitress, Carol, knew our orders by heart. It felt like home. Like safety. Like nothing bad could ever touch us under those fluorescent lights, but there was always something off about the corner booth. Booth 7. Carol would never seat anyone there, even on packed Saturday nights. When I asked her why, she'd just shake her head and say, "That one stays empty." The vinyl was pristine, untouched, while every other seat was worn down to the stuffing. Sometimes, late at night, I'd catch Carol staring at it, her face drained of color. One Thursday at 3 a.m., Danny didn't show up. No text, no call. This was a guy who'd never missed a night in 2 years. Jess and I tried his phone. Straight to voicemail. We drove to his apartment. His car was gone. His mom hadn't seen him since shift ended at midnight. The last ping on his phone? The diner parking lot at 2047 a.m., right when he should have been walking through those doors. We went back to Millie's that night, searching for anything we'd missed. That's when Jess noticed the security camera above the entrance. Carol was reluctant, hands shaking as she rewound the footage. And there he was, Danny, walking across the parking lot, pushing open the door at exactly 2047. But here's what made my blood run cold. He walked straight to booth 7. He slid into that pristine seat, and across from him, in the shadows where the camera angle couldn't quite reach, there was someone else. A figure in dark clothes, completely still. Carol gasped and shut off the monitor. She finally told us the truth. In 1983, a man named Warren Cates came to Millie's every night, always sitting in booth 7, always ordering black coffee and apple pie, until one night he didn't leave. They found him the next morning, slumped in that booth, stone cold. Heart attack, they said. But 3 nights after his funeral, the cook saw Warren sitting in that same booth at 3 a.m., solid as flesh, staring at the door like he was waiting for someone. Over the years, people reported seeing him. Always at night, always in booth 7. And anyone who sat across from him, they disappeared. A trucker in 91, a college student in 2003, just gone. Carol had kept the booth empty for 17 years, refusing to let anyone near it, until Danny. We searched everywhere. We filed reports. We plastered missing person flyers across 3 counties. Then, 6 days later, Danny's car turned up abandoned on a logging road 40 miles north. The driver's seat was pushed all the way back, like someone taller had been driving. On the dashboard, we found a receipt from Millie's Diner, time-stamped 2047 a.m. on the night he vanished, and written on the back in handwriting that wasn't Danny's, "He's staying for pie." I went back one more time against Jess's warnings. It was 2:30 a.m. when I pushed through those doors. Carol wasn't working. The new waitress didn't know me. I sat 2 booths away from booth 7 watching, waiting. At 2:47 exactly, the temperature dropped. The jukebox switched songs on its own. Only You by the Platters. And in the reflection of the chrome napkin dispenser, I saw him. Warren Cates, solid and real, sitting in booth 7, his dead eyes fixed on the door, fixed on me. I ran. I've never gone back. Danny's case is still open. Carol quit a week after we watched that footage, and I heard Millie's finally closed down last year. They're converting it into a gas station, but sometimes, late at night, I wonder if Warren is still waiting in that booth, patient as death, ready to share his eternal meal with the next fool who sits across from him. Story 2, The Midnight Menu. The Bluebird Diner on Highway 52 served a secret menu after midnight. Nothing printed, you just had to know to ask for the special. Word spread among truckers and insomniacs, the best meal you'd ever taste, and it was always exactly what you were craving. I was driving cross-country exhausted when I stopped there at 1 a.m. The waitress, pale with black eyes, smiled when I asked for the special. "Coming right up," she said. She never asked what I wanted. 20 minutes later, she brought out my grandmother's pot roast, the exact recipe, the one she'd made every Sunday before she died. Even the chipped plate looked identical. It tasted perfect. Too perfect. I asked how she knew. She just smiled and said, "We know what everyone's hungry for, deep down hungry." Then I noticed the other diners, a businessman weeping over a birthday cake, a woman staring at a bowl of soup like it was a ghost. Nobody was talking. Nobody was leaving. Some looked like they'd been there for hours. I left cash and walked out, but my car wouldn't start. Through the diner window, I saw the waitress watching me, still smiling. My phone was dead. The highway was empty, and from inside, I heard my grandmother's voice calling my name, telling me to come back. There was more food. I looked so thin. Shush, I ran into the darkness and didn't stop until I found a truck stop 3 miles down the road. A driver gave me a jump. When I mentioned the Bluebird, he went pale. That place burned down in 1979, he said. Whole staff died in the fire. I drove past that spot in daylight. Nothing but an empty lot and a rusted sign that read, Bluebird Diner, serving you forever. Story 3, the all-night listener, Sonny's 24-hour diner, had a regular who only came between 3 and 4 a.m., always sitting at the counter, always wearing the same gray suit. He never ordered food, just coffee. But here's what made him strange. He listened. If you talked, he'd lean in, absorbing every word, never blinking, never responding. Just listening with an intensity that felt hungry. My friend Rachel was a waitress there. She said people who talked to the listener would come back night after night, telling him more and more, confessing secrets, admitting crimes, revealing fears they'd never told anyone. And they'd get thinner, tired, like something was draining out of them with every word. One night, Rachel accidentally mentioned her sister's death. The listener's head snapped toward her. She said his eyes looked black, bottomless. The next night, she felt compelled to tell him more. And more. She lost 12 pounds in a week. Stopped sleeping. Her hands shook constantly. I went there to confront him, but when I arrived at 3:15 a.m., he was already staring at the door, at me, like he'd been waiting. I sat down, determined not to speak, but the silence was crushing, suffocating. Words bubbled up in my throat. I wanted to tell him everything. My mouth opened. Rachel grabbed my arm and pulled me out. We watched through the window as he returned to his coffee, patient, eternal. Rachel quit that night. Last I heard, Sonny's had a new overnight waitress. She's losing weight. She stopped sleeping. And every night at 3 a.m., she sits across from the listener, talking. These diners are still out there, and maybe you've seen them. Those too quiet places where the coffee tastes like memory and the staff watches you a little too closely. If you've got your own diner story, or if you've survived something you can't explain, drop it in the comments. Subscribe if you want more true survival breakdowns. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's chasing you. It's what's waiting for you to sit down and stay a while.